TalkTainmentRadio.com.
We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We've got the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I'm Brother Kahari, sitting in every week alongside Mr. Fuller as we examine a number of issues from a racial perspective to try to get a glimpse of what's going on in the area of race and racism to determine exactly where we are on this planet.
Go ahead. Make my day.
And that's what we intend to do, is to make your day. Joining me, of course, live from Washington, D.C. And by the way, you can catch the Compensatory Concept live, and be patient with us on the downloads. We are readjusting some things and reorganizing, but I can guarantee you that very soon we'll get updated, and these things happen. So I just want you to have a little patience, and we're correcting the things as we go forward. All right, we appreciate that. Joining me is Mr. Neely Fuller, live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Fuller, how are you, sir?
I'm still learning.
Mr. Fuller, something came out on the internet. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that floats on the internet. Sometimes it's valid, sometimes it isn't. But it did raise, in my mind, it just raised something that I had heard before. I was listening to a guy talk about COINTELPRO. I know you've heard of that term, Mr. Fuller. And he talked about, he was a former FBI agent, and he talked about how COINTELPRO operated, trying to educate people on how things change. And one of the things he said was how they got inside and changed the music in terms of how this gangster rap got introduced and what it was designed to do. There is a letter on the internet that I picked up. It's a YouTube video, and I'm going to play it here. It's it's about 9 minutes long, but I think it's important enough for us to hear, and it's called The Secret Meeting. So, Mr. Fuller, I want us to take a listen to it. And I don't know, have you heard it before, Mr. Fuller?
No, I haven't.
Are you familiar with it, this letter that's going around about how there was a secret meeting of music executives and how they use this to change from into gangster music to feed the prison industrial state? But I want to just play as much of it as I can. I probably won't play all of it, but play enough of it to get a sense of what it is. So here we go, Mr. Fuller.
An anonymous letter was leaked, and it described the secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation. The letter goes as follows.
Hello, after more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music, and ultimately American society. I had struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making the story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being, and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for. Between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established company in the music industry. I came from Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then. Since technology and media weren't accessible to people like they are today, the industry had more control over the public, and had the means to influence them any way it wanted. This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of music business insiders, to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know that we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practice I've ever seen. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people being there, most of them familiar faces. Speaking to those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap music, and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private gathering to discuss its future. Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces, who stayed to themselves, and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be in our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued and in some cases disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long but very clear on the matter and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but couldn't find anyone who had answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. No one stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me. A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected the agreements from us. Quickly after the meeting began, one of my industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everyone else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name, and gave no further details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but it was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industry, and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point I began to feel slightly uncomfortable at the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. He explained that the companies we work for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in confusion. At the time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were, and what any of this had to do with us. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies, who received funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague, who had first opened the meeting, took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employers had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remained filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us, because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employee, we'd also be able to buy personal stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming, and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point things became chaotic. Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted out, and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd and all four of us were escorted outside. My industry colleague, who had opened the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us, and reminded us that we had signed agreement, and would suffer the consequences of speaking about this publicly or even with those who attended the meeting. I asked him why he was involved with something this corrupt, and he replied that it was bigger than the music business and nothing we'd want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested, and as he walked back into the house I remember word for word the last thing he said, "It's out of my hands now. Remember, you signed an agreement." He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our cars and actually watched until we drove off.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, I'm not going to play all of it, but you get the gist of what it is, and it's floating around the net. I've seen some people say, "Oh, this is fictitious and all that." Well, let's put it like this. I don't know whether it's true or not. I do know this. Something changed in the music in such a dramatic way, and it's had a draconian effect unlike anything I have ever seen. And I'm just wondering, Mr. Fuller, as we talk about, and I want to get into music and entertainment, because I look up on these, I have a list of things that have been done, and as I look upon this, I see this as political as any message there could be is the message in the music. Mr. Fuller, let me get your response to what you heard, your thoughts about it, and the statement about the message in the music.
Well, whether the recording is true or false, or whether what the person is saying is true or false, the basic thing that I get up in the morning and remember is that I ask a question. Everything in the universe starts with a question, including the universe itself. What is the universe? Okay, but when you narrow that to people moving around on what we call the planet Earth, I ask myself, what is going on? Like in a music, since we're talking about music, there's a song by Marvin Gaye that was very popular. What's going on? Excellent question. That's what everybody should wake up in the morning asking. What is going on? And after you ask that question, who is causing what is going on to go on? First of all, you want to know what's going on, and then you want to know who is causing it. When you look out your window, everything that you're looking at, who's causing all of this? Who is behind everything that I'm looking at? And then you look, if you want to put it, backing up and then looking at everything under a microscope, you get to, what are black people doing? And why are they doing what they are doing? Just look at whatever it is that you see black people doing and say, why are they doing these things? And who influences them to do these things more than anybody else? Are they influencing themselves? And if so, what are they starting from? And in order to do what? What is the intentions of everybody that I'm looking at? I see people coming and going up and down the street. Where are these people going? And what are they going to do when they get where they're going? You see people rushing here and rushing there, and you see some people just walking along languidly like they're not going any place in particular, and just looking up at the sky and looking up and down the street. And you say, what is going through that person's mind right now? And so you look at white people, you look at black people, you look at all the people of the planet, and you say, what's on their minds right now? On all of the people that I'm passing on the street. What are they thinking about right now? What are they thinking about doing? Because everybody wants to do something. They're going somewhere. What are they going to do when they get where they are going? And who is making the decision about what everybody is going to be doing or not doing? So who's controlling all of this? These are questions that each and every person who is breathing on the planet should ask all day long. Just when you pass people on the street, when you're on the elevator, and you look from side to side, you say, where are these people going when they get to the floor where they're going? And what are they thinking about? And when they are no longer in this building and going somewhere else, what are they going to do when they get where they're going? And who is orchestrating all of this? Who puts all this together? Who decides who's going to be doing what? And for what reason? And how does it all work out in the end? That lady that has just had that baby, what plan does she have for that baby? I mean, she's coming out of the hospital and she's smiling and all like that. Does she know that somebody else has a plan for that baby? Has she thought about somebody else's plan for the baby that she's holding? And the lady who is sitting next to her in the maternity ward and whatnot, who's expecting a baby, does she have any idea? Not for her plans, because she probably, it appears that a lot of people don't have any plans for the baby that they're carrying. They don't have plan one, except that all they're going to do is have the baby, and then they're going to sit there with the baby on their lap, waiting on someone to tell them what plan there is for the baby. Do people think about that? What plans do other people have for my baby? And what plans do I have for my baby? Or do I have a plan? Or have I thought about a plan other than I'm going to have a baby, and the baby is going to come, and I'm going to have the baby on my lap? I'll have that plan because I see other people with babies on their laps. So I'll put the baby on my lap. Okay, and I'll feed the baby because I see other people feeding the baby. So I'll feed the baby like I see the other people feeding the baby while the baby is on their lap. Now, what plan do you have beyond that for the baby? Not just for the next 6 weeks, for the next 30 years. What's your plan? Do you have a plan? Have you even thought about a plan? Or see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, getting back to where we are saying, sounds that people make, musical sounds, or maybe not musical sounds, because I only say there are two kind of sounds in the universe, music and noise. So have black people been listening to noise? Because that will influence what you're going to do and how you're going to raise your so-called baby, and even how you're going to raise yourself, because people are raising themselves or not raising themselves each and every minute of each and every day. You're either improving or you're deteriorating. Now, which is it going to be? There's no in between.
Mm-hmm.
You're either improving yourself or you are going to rot. Or like Andy Dufresne said in the movie Shawshank Redemption, the character Andy Dufresne, get busy living or get busy dying.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it going to be? It's nothing in between.
Okay. So as you hear something like that, what runs through your mind? Is it possible that as you saw the direction of the sound or the music or the noise or whatever change so dramatically, we watch that, we watch it associated then with pornography, we watch it be associated with drugs, we watched it be associated with ill-mannered, disrespectful, I mean, all of it led to a coming down. Even the change of clothes. We used to dress up, and then the folks would say, dress up because your mind goes up. And now we're dressing down, sloppy, like bums, like hobos. And then it's like a sea change, Mr. Fuller, in the mindset. By the way, if you want to jump in on this, we're talking about that secret meeting letter floating around on the web. I played excerpts of it once before, but if you want to jump in here, feel free to call us at 1-877-932-9766. That's 1-877-932-9766. Mr. Fuller, let's talk about the power of music, particularly amongst black people. Is it a very powerful force?
Super powerful. And someone once said, I don't know who, but I heard it many years ago, many decades ago, let me write the songs for people, and it doesn't matter who makes their laws. Because if you write the songs and the words you put in the songs and all like that, that's how the people are going to act. That's the premise. Let me write their songs. Mm-hmm. They're walking around with these songs in their head all day long. They don't think about the laws very much. They think about the songs. They're singing to themselves. People like what you call songs. They like what they call music. There are only two types of sound in the universe, music and noise. Now, what's the difference between music and noise? Music helps you to think constructively, and noise helps you to think non-constructively. In other words, when you hear a noise, you'll do non-constructive things. That's the measure. That's the only difference between music and noise. Doesn't make any difference about the sound because it's all sound. But if you see someone acting in a non-constructive manner and they are listening to some sound, you say, well, maybe the sound that they're listening to is helping them to act in the non-constructive manner. So I will change the sound so that they will act in a constructive manner. Now, how will you know the difference? When they start acting in a constructive manner, when they listen to the sound, then you know that's music. And even when you torture people, you can sometimes play a certain sound, or you can play a sound over and over again that had been music, but that music becomes noise when it affects the person's minds when you keep playing it over and over and over again. Okay? Very loud in the person's ear. Sometimes prisoners are tortured that way. when the prisoner first hears the sound, prisoner says, "Oh, that sounds wonderful. In fact, that's my favorite song." You know, so they're entertaining me. But after a while, regardless of what that sound is, what that music, what was music to you before, and energized you and helped you to think in a constructive manner, gave you some relief from the boredom, because no one likes to be bored for the most part, if they're reasonably sane. So you listen to it, but if you listen to the same sound over and over again, blaring in your ear, 24/7, it never changes. That same recording, over and over again, 6 days, 12 days, 3 months, your mind will deteriorate, because the mind is not geared to accept something repetitious like that. The mind kind of wanders and whatnot. But when the mind is forced to stay on that same wavelength, then that's the way you can drive a person acutely insane, completely to the where their mind is just completely gone. That can happen. And so sound is very important. The sound of a waterfall, the sound of a car passing by, it causes you to think a certain way. So anyone who can orchestrate the sounds that you're going to receive can control you.
That's heavy. Mr. Fuller, stay right there. We are talking about, if you haven't had a chance to go and look it up on the web, look up the secret meeting. You can YouTube it. Allegedly, there was a meeting of record executives and people from the intelligence agencies, from what we're surmising here. And this was back in 1990, 1991. And they flipped the music into gangster rap, according to what this guy is saying he attended. And then, of course, we all know from there, basically, all hell broke loose, even more than the hell we were catching before then. Stay right there. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This program is brought to you by ClaySpace, a passion for pottery, art for the soul. 614-449-8144 or clayspace831.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is now more listener-friendly. We've categorized the programs that air on Talktainment Radio. Friday, comedy and Showtime entertainment.
Classic television theater.
Reverend Peterman, uncensored.
Brown sugar on sports.
Go to TalkTainmentRadio.com and click on programs for times and podcasts. Click Listen Live for current programs being aired. We are the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
You gotta fight for your right to party.
If you like to party, and who doesn't, you know that sometimes stuff happens. Stuff like assaults, drugs, DUIs. Connie Goodell Newton understands. She's not here to judge anyone, just to provide the best legal representation possible. Facing criminal charges, Connie takes very special care handling her criminal cases and works hard to ensure that her clients receive the very best results possible. Do you have a record? Connie's very familiar with the new expanded expungement statute. Got warrants? Connie may be able to keep you out of jail. Connie also handles domestic relations and mediation cases. Call Connie Goodell Newton from the law firm of Fatrakis and Goodell Newton at 307-9783. Connie welcomes clients from diverse communities, GLBT, African American, activists, students, and more. So party on. Just remember, if you get just one phone call, make it to Connie Goodell Newton at 307-9783 or online at fgnlegal.com.
This is Connie Goodell Newton, and I will fight for your right to party.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
I'm Tammy Rager, host of The Now Age and numerologist to the stars. I've got your lucky numbers on Conversate the AM on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:11 a.m. Make sure you tune in for your lucky number. Punch in talktainmentradio.com and click on Listen Live and listen for your lucky number.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard, the world's greatest radio. You can catch Mr. Fuller here live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Brother Kahari, sitting in with Mr. Fuller every week. Mr. Fuller, tell us how we can get two of the most definitive works ever written on the subject of racism and white supremacy.
You can get it by going to your computer and put in the words producejustice.com. That's produce, Produce, producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the textbook for victims of white supremacy and its additional guide in the form of a word guide that is directed toward the victims of racism and or white supremacy. Racism and white supremacy being synonymous.
Okay.
And you should be able to get the books. Producejustice.com.
Now, Mr. Fuller, there's a lot of stuff going on the planet, so we're not just going to deal with the secret meeting, but I thought that was something people might go to, pull up on the YouTube, listen to, draw your own conclusions about its accuracy one way or the other. But it is thought-provoking, and it makes you begin to try to analyze and put together how this came about or what's really behind it one way or the other. Mr. Fuller, we've got a situation, and I know you have spent some time in the military. We've got a situation over in North Korea, and I'd like to I know you've had a chance to follow it, you've looked at it. What's your sense of what's going on over there, Mr. Fuller? Because as I look at it from North Korea, I see a spot on the planet where this guy's in his place, but I don't see him messing with anybody. Now, I'm not saying, but I know 8 years of telling you somebody's a demon, after a while, people are going to simply repeat it. But you have a much deeper analysis on most things. How do you approach looking at this situation with North Korea, Mr. Fuller?
Well, I look at it within the context of the one system that dominates the planet. The one political and religious system, because it's just one, that dominates the behavior of the people on this planet that we call Earth, according to my opinion, and according to what I have written in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. Now, that system is called, accurately I say, the system of white supremacy and or racism. It's just one form of racism, and that is the system of white supremacy, in my opinion. And that system is designed to dominate and mistreat non-white people in all areas of activity 24/7, each and every day, everywhere on the planet, all the time, without let-up. Dominate and mistreat. That's what the system is designed to do. Dominate and mistreat. Based on what? Based on color. All people classified as non-white are supposed to be dominated and mistreated by the people, not all white people, but by the white people who have decided to practice the most successful political and religious system that the world has ever known, and that's a system called white supremacy. And they do this in all 9 areas of activity. They can't do it just in some and let others go, because then they'll lose control. You have to dominate people completely. Otherwise, you're really not dominating them. If you dominate them in economics, you have to also dominate them in education and in entertainment and in labor, the kind of work that they do, and in law, what the laws are that apply to them, and in politics, meaning interaction between people, how people interact with each other every day, because that's what real politics is.
Okay.
How, when people talk to each other on the sidewalk, that's politics. We don't think of it as politics, but that's politics, because it's just people interacting with people. That's what real politics is. And then you have religion. That's how people relate to whatever they think created them, or some type of association with a creator or something more powerful than them that they can't define, but they can perceive and whatnot. And then you have sex. You have to dominate people's sexual activities. And, of course, you have to dominate them when it comes to war, when it comes to what the conflicts are going to be, what person is going to fight what person, and about what the issues are going to be. So, having said that, and getting to the North Korean situation, you just say, you ask that, what I say is the proverbial question. What are the white supremacists up to now? Because anytime somebody's gearing up for conflict, you better believe that they have something to do with it. I mean, whether it's the Tonkin Gulf, back during what they call the Vietnam area.
Yeah, the Tonkin Gulf Resolution. Yeah.
Yes, right. I mean, in which they said, boogeyman is coming to get me. So we got to gear up. Everybody drop what you're doing. Everybody grab a gun. Everybody grab a rifle. Disaster's right around the road. Okay? When you look behind the scenes, the person who is calling the Paul Revere alarm is the person who instigated the whole thing in the first place and made it look like, somebody's just coming out of nowhere and they're going to destroy you. So to arms. Everybody grab a rifle, grab your muskets. I mean, the Indians are coming. Without stopping to explain, maybe the Indians are coming, but maybe you should make some kind of agreement with the Indians rather than keep grabbing their land. I mean, sure, they might be coming. I mean, what went on before this thing came to a head? I mean, who was doing what? What's the history of this? Did anybody try to sit down and work out something that would have a constructive effect? Or did you have the incorrect intentions to start with and knew full well that sooner or later somebody's going to get mad about something, and then you're going to help them get mad, and not only that, going to help them get the arms that they need? Did they have them before? No. Well, I'm going to give them some. The old cowboy trick of the gunslinger who really knows that he's an excellent gunslinger. I'll give this illustration so that people can get a frame of reference. The cowboy walks into the saloon, and the cowboy is looking for trouble. I mean, he's a real gunslinger. He's not, just a cattle driver. He's a gunslinger. He's got two guns hanging low. So he walks in, and he says, look like nobody in here is looking for a fight. Of course, it's too quiet in the saloon. Saloons are not supposed to be quiet. So he walks up and down and looks like he can't pick a fight and whatnot. Finally, he picks out somebody. Say, hey, you look like you might want to fight. You want to fight? I'm looking for a fight. That's what I came in here for. I didn't come here to gamble and drink. I might start off doing that, but I really came in here to build up to a fight. You look like a pretty good fighter. And the guy said, I'm not a fighter. I'm just sitting here taking a rest so I can go out and round up my cattle later on, and get back with the herd. That's what I do. I'm a cowboy, I just deal in cows. I'm not a gunslinger. Well, that might be what you were, but right now you're going to be a gunslinger. The guy says, I ain't carrying a gun. Well, you better go get one. See, that's many people have seen that scene. I'm walking out of here, and when I come back, you better have a gun, or you're dead anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So the white supremacists have, that's why they keep making movies like that. They love that. If you ain't ready to fight, you better get ready to fight.
But here's a guy that says, I will bomb you into oblivion if you mess with me. Now,
yes,
is this,
naturally.
Is this the correct way that non-white people should handle this situation, Mr. Fuller?
Absolutely not, because you're walking into a trap. Because the gunslinger that came into the saloon is always, he's a gunslinger. He's not a cowboy, he's a gunslinger. Pulling those guns, fast draw and killing people is what he does. That's why people hire him. Like in the movie Shane. Jack Wilson, a gunslinger. Shane himself was a gunslinger. One gunslinger going after another gunslinger. The white supremacists love that scenario. Hey, it's too quiet around here. The black people are quiet, the white people are quiet. Let's get something started. That's what they do. That's their specialty. That's their reason for breathing. They don't like things running smooth. They like to see bloodshed and non-white bloodshed, piles of bodies. They love body counts. If you don't have a body count, something is incorrect about the universe. People just walking around with flowers and people planting corn and people saying, good morning to each other and getting along and whatnot. It's too quiet around here. We want gun smoke. That's what we want. We love it. We love it. Like General Patton said that he loved it. I guess General Rommel did too. Most people who deal in firearms and whatnot, they want to see those things smoking and they want to see bodies piling up. You get tired of targets. That gets boring.
They call it collateral damage.
Yes. See, they want to see things being blown up. They make video games of things being blown up, not video games of people building houses and people learning how to operate a motorboat. To carry cargo down the river, so that little starving children can eat. Oh, that's not exciting. That's boring. Let's see some bloodshed. That's the white supremacist ideology. And they have given it to all their victims. So, they give arms to their victims. They show them how to make weapons of mass destruction. And then they say, okay, you just about got it perfected. And now I'm coming after you. Old trick. And non-white people should not fall for it. You're not coming after me because I know what you're doing. Oh, yeah, you're building me up to a big fight that you know I'm going to lose. I'm not going to meet you on those terms.
So
if we're going to fight, it's going to be on my terms.
So what you're saying is that this young man or this nation of people, this non-white population, is being set up. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying to the extent that a white supremacist, and I have to use my language very precisely, otherwise they'll use your language against you. To the extent that a white supremacist is involved in this any kind of way, it's a setup for the destruction of huge numbers of non-white people. It's called racist population tailoring. It's one of their major strategies. You don't want the population of non-white people in certain sections to get too big, because it's, as they say in the organized crime, like the Corleones and whatnot, it's bad for business. The business of what? The business of racism. That's what.
But they also say blood is a big expense.
Yes, but it's big expense if you don't control it. That's why, like Sollozzo said, hey, I want to control it. Or just like when they were sitting around the table in Godfather 1 and whatnot. We want to control it as a business. We don't want all this bloodshed between the families about how we're going to run the business of white supremacy. We want to control those people up in Harlem, among the colors. We want to control them. We all want the same thing. We all in the same business. We don't have to have these disputes about turf. So we can just divide the turf up nice and neat. Everybody will participate and get their part. And we all go home and everybody's happy, except the people that we're inflicting all of this drugs on. All of this sounds that we call music is messing up their minds. And since they're in the 1960s so proud of their bodies, they're going around talking about black is beautiful and all like that. We'll even do things, and I'm going to interject this. It's not just we started off talking about sounds and music and all like that.
Correct.
And yeah, but it also spills into things like black people are going around talking about their skin color. They're saying they are no longer ashamed of it. They're supposed to be ashamed of it. So since they are saying they're not ashamed of being black anymore, even though that's the way the Creator made them, why be ashamed? And so, but we had tricked them into being ashamed. They want to be anything except black, all right? But now that they're getting to the place they're comfortable with being black, or trying to be comfortable, or trying to get to the place where they will be comfortable, what we'll do, we'll go around and tell them, oh, your skin is not the way it ought to be. Now, I'm not going to say anything about it being black, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to box you into putting all kinds of drawings all over your skin, from head to toe. And since you are kind of dumb people, because I raised you to be dumb, you are going to fall for it, because I'm going to make it popular. And so your skin now will be covered with sores, because that's what I'm going to. I'm going to brand you just like I branded your grandfather. Just like I branded the people that I put in death camps. Because you're undesirable. I'm not going to have you proud of your skin, because your skin is going to look like a bunch of mess. It's going to look like graffiti up under the elevated tracks down there under those weeds. And you're going to be walking around proud of it. Why? Because I said that that's how you should look. And look at black people. We got 3 generations of black people now, some of them 50 years old, covered with graffiti.
Yeah, called tattoos. Stay right there,
yes.
Mr. Fuller. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard.
This program is brought to you by ClaySpace, a passion for pottery, art for the soul. 614-449-8144 or clayspace831.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is now more listener-friendly. We've categorized the programs that air on Talktainment Radio. Friday, comedy and Showtime entertainment.
Classic television theater.
Reverend Peterman, uncensored.
Brown sugar on sports.
Go to TalkTainmentRadio.com and click on programs for times and podcasts. Click Listen Live for current programs being aired. We are the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really?
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-371-5898, 800-371-5898.
I get my hair cut at Fees. Me and Dr. Peterman go there all the time. Dr. Peterman?
Well, let me get the day straight. I don't get my hair cut. I get my hair styled.
I don't know what to laugh about besides my prices are so low. You can't beat them. My name is Felicia Humphrey, better known as Fifi. I am a licensed barber. I went to Ohio State Barber College. Been doing it for a while now, so it's 22 years. Fee's Barber Studio. It's at 3469 East Livingston Avenue. It's between Barnett and Kennard on the east side of Columbus. Yeah, I'm going to cut your hair the way you want it cut not the way I want it cut. Fades, tapers, afros, beard trims, designer cuts, children's cuts, babies cuts, whatever kind of cut you like. Walk-ins are welcome. You can make an appointment with me, mornings and nights. First-time clients, I take $5 off haircuts, $5 off children. If you come with a family, we definitely can make a deal with you. With the third cut, it's always half off.
Cuts by appointment. Call 614-515-0803 and walk-ins welcome. That's Fee's Barber Studio, 3469 East Livingston Avenue.
You gotta fight for your right to
If you like to party, and who doesn't, you know that sometimes stuff happens. Stuff like assaults, drugs, DUIs. Connie Goodell Newton understands she's not here to judge anyone, just to provide the best legal representation possible. Facing criminal charges, Connie takes very special care handling her criminal cases and works hard to ensure that her clients receive the very best results possible. Do you have a record? Connie's very familiar with the new expanded expungement statute. Got warrants? Connie may be able to keep you out of jail. Connie also handles domestic relations and mediation cases. Call Connie Goodell Newton from the law firm of Fatrakis and Goodell Newton at 307-9783. Connie welcomes clients from diverse communities, GLBT, African American, activists, students, and more. So party on. Just remember, if you get just one phone call, make it to Connie Goodell Newton at 307-9783 or online at fgnlegal.com.
This is Connie Goodell Newton, and I will fight for your right to party.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
I'm Tammy Rager, host of The Now Age and numerologist to the stars. I've got your lucky numbers on Conversate the AM on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:11 a.m. Make sure you tune in for your lucky number. Punch in talkteam@radio.com and click on Listen Live and listen for your lucky number.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com radio, the way it should be heard. You can hear Mr. Fuller live every week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in California, it'd be 7 a.m. If you're in Texas, maybe I think it would be 8 a.m. I could have this wrong. But, you know, there are different times. But if you're in different time zones, you hear it live. But you can also go hear the podcast. Now, I want you to be patient with us. We're making some changes, some technical changes, and we're going to get everything back up to date here in just a minute. We've received letters and concerns about the about the podcast. Those will be up real soon. Just be patient. Everything, sometimes you have to adjust some things to make it better, and that's what we're doing. All right, joining us, of course, is Mr. Neely Fuller. Mr. Fuller? Tell us how we can get your 2 definitive works on white supremacy, racism.
Very simple. I tried to make it simple. Go to your computer. Put in the words producejustice.com. And what should come up on your screen is very simple, a very simple format. It shows the books and how to order them. That's the textbook for Victim of White Supremacy. And then there's an additional book that's an addition to the basic book, and that's called a word guide, because the type of words that you use and how you use words and how you listen to other people when they use words. There should be some type of guide. I tried to make one that shows you what to look for and what to ask about. There are some words that don't make sense when people try to define them, and some words are not even defined, and that causes what? Confusion. And a system of gangsterism, which is what white supremacy is. It's a gangster-type system. Gangsters, whether they're on a small scale or a large scale, first of all, if they're real sophisticated, try to confuse their victims. And the better they are at confusing their victims, the easier it is for them to do to their victims what they want to do, and that's victimization. So if they can do it by talking, or by writing, or by sending sounds in the form of what they call music, and control people, and control the way people think, and the way people think is going to be the way that they're going to act, then they have what you call the white supremacist control. And if it's a racist who's doing it, He can control people through racism, through doing evil things to people based on color. And that's what the books are about. But you can push into the computer, producejustice.com. That will give you the information about how to order the books.
Okay, two other things. As I said, there's a lot of news items. I want to try to get to them as possible. One, of course, you know about the South Korea. He's supposed to launch the missile, I think, today. The other one is in Washington, D.C. I'm sure you've heard this, Mr. Fuller. A man is in custody after claiming his vehicle was rigged with explosives near the White House. Now, and at the same time that we're hearing this, we're also hearing that 32 gun purchases are taking place every minute under the president. That means they've sold more guns, Mr. Fuller, than they've ever in any single time in any period of history. What is the message from all of this, Mr. Fuller?
Well, here again, just like I said at the beginning of the program, the beginning of all programs, to the extent that a racist, a white person that believes in white supremacy, to the extent that a person like that has anything to do with it, anything at all, either directly or indirectly, it is to make the system of racism stronger. They've already got it established, so they are going to make it stronger. That's what it's all about, making the system of white supremacy stronger worldwide. And that's if a racist has anything to do with it, and a racist has something to do with anything that non-white people are involved in. That's the assumption. Now, that assumption is either true or false, but I'm saying it's true. So anything that you see going on around you, anything that you hear, any new song that comes out, if a racist has anything to do with it, there's a racist agenda that's connected with it. You just automatically, your mind is supposed to jump right there because they permeate everything that's going on the planet 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
They have their input, and their input becomes the dominant input because their influence is very insidious, and they are very scientific people. They're the most scientific people on Earth. In fact, they're the smartest people among the people of the planet. When you have white supremacists being the smartest people on the planet, you really got a huge system going on there that you can call white supremacy. And it's a terrible system, unfortunately. Now, a lot of people find that painful to have to face. But just because it's painful doesn't say that it's not true.
Doesn't say it's not true. You know,
Right.
There's so many things going on. When you think about not only the impact of what's happening in North Korea, it's like all of a sudden a bunch of things are being waved in our face that just creates a lot of confusion. And the other one I'm thinking about, of course, that we've talked about here is this whole thing on this so-called word gay and the word same sex and all of that. You get all of that piled on top of everything else that's going on. What is the net effect of all of this, Mr. Fuller, on the psyches or the thinking, or how does this create deeper confusion for black people, or are we thinking stronger about what's coming at us, Mr. Fuller?
We're not thinking about what's coming at us at all because most people don't even have an idea that such a thing as white supremacy exists. When it controls everything, if you're black, everything that you're doing, the white supremacists control. Even when you think that you're controlling something, the average black person wakes up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, you're going to do this and you're going to do that on whose terms? I mean, when you walk out your door and the street that you walk on, who determines what street that you are going to be on? Even when you walk out what you call your door. Because your door might not even be your door. Your door may be something that you owe somebody for. Have you thought of that? You say, this is my door. This is my house. Is it really? When you stop to think, who really owns your house? Are you beholden to anybody? I mean, is this a house that you built on the street that you built? decided it would be, or was the place already there and somebody told you it might be a good idea for you to go over there and take a look and then move in? Move in on what? On whose terms? On your terms? Not likely. On somebody else's terms. And who is that somebody else, ultimately? Who is it? Have you ever asked? Have you ever thought about it? Do you really control your existence on this planet? The average black person, particularly black males, we got this thing about, physicality. If I take off my shirt and I got big bulging muscles, somehow that's a cure-all for everything in the world. I'm a black male, and I got strong muscles. I can lift weights, and I can run down the street faster than anybody else and get where I'm going. That somehow makes me a strong black man, and that's all I need. I got these bulging muscles. I'm fit and I'm trim. I love to take my shirt off, particularly, in the summertime and whatnot. I don't want to wear a shirt at all. I take my shirt off so people can see my strong muscles. Okay. And I can lift things. I can go here and I can go there. But have you ever stopped to think about what you can use your muscles for or against? And what's the product? Is this all that you have? Do you have anything else to show for your being on this planet up to now? Do you have a plan for the future that goes beyond just you taking up the sidewalk, making people walk around you when you come down the sidewalk because you're in the middle, and they have to go past you, the ladies with the baby strollers and all like that, because you are, your own man? Or are you really a man? Because the people who, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, there were a lot of strong males, strong black males, but I tend to believe they were people who understood their position in the system of white supremacy. That's why they had signs. Now, these are people that lift garbage pails. You got to be strong to do that. But they had signs saying what? I am a man. People right now can go to their computers and punch up the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated, April 1968. And there in Memphis, Tennessee, Martin Luther King was there to help the garbage workers, who were all black, I understand, to get higher wages. And these garbage workers, these sanitation workers, proud people who, many of them, were, you might call it that day, pillars of the community and in the church and all like that. But they were sanitation workers. But they were also saying, even though we're sanitation workers, we should be getting a decent wage. But they didn't have signs saying we should be getting a decent wage. They had signs saying, almost in unison, there are photographs of it. That's a historical record, saying what? I am a man. M-A-N. Like Muddy Waters even had a song saying, man, man,
Right.
Over and over again. And when black people, and they don't say it so much nowadays, they say dude, but black people used to use the word man all the time back in the 40s and 50s. Why? Right. You had to keep saying that to kind of reassure yourself that that's what you should be. You should be treated like a man. I'm a man. Don't be calling me no boy. I'm a man. You say boy this and boy that. I'm tired of hearing that. Even when black people would say it to each other. Hey, boy, hey, well, man, hey, I'm a man. I'm 3 times 7. That was a common saying. 3 times 7. That makes me 21. I'm a man. And if you don't believe I'm a man, I'll prove it to you. Meaning I will do harm to you physically. That's what it meant in the old days. But see, black people had to keep saying that to each other. And finally they had to start saying it to white people, but the white supremacists said, there's only going to be one man on this planet. And you boys who want to be men, I tell you what, after Martin Luther King is dead, I'll make a deal with you. You'll go from boys not to men. You'll go from boys to women.
To women.
Yes. I will degenderize you and get you to love it. You will love acting like your sisters and love being that way and go around looking for another male to do things with you in the bed like you're a female. And you'll learn to love it because I'll teach you to love it.
Mr. Fuller, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Look forward to talking to you real soon.
You got the power. Radio, the way it should be heard.